This project is an honest and in-depth perspective of and from former students at Milton Hershey School. We call ourselves Milts.
An organic, open discussion of life before, during, and after attending MHS.
So, welcome back, everybody, to Milt Talk Podcast. We have fantastic guests today. We have Chuck and Cyndi Seidel, and they are yeah, our brother and sister are on with us, and we're super excited to have them. Welcome, guys.
Thank you very much.
We're excited.
So, I just announced you, but can you tell everybody your full names or what your name was at the Milt and what year you graduated?
All right, I'll start with me. I am Cyndi Kraut, back in Milton Hershey, and now Cyndi Seidel. And I am class of 87, the great class of 87.
And I am also from the great class of 1987, Chuck Seidel.
There you go. There you go. And you guys have been together since the Milt,
Yes.
correct?
We dated 2 years at the Milt, and we've been married. We just celebrated 32 years.
Wow.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Congratulations.
No, we've been together 34 years.
34 years.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I know just go ahead.
Cindy's going to do a lot of the answering because that's kind of what we've grown into.
Because you're smart.
Yes, smart. And yeah, right.
That's how
He
it
knows
works.
the rules. He knows the rules.
Jessica,
You know how it works.
I mean,
I
Scott
know.
got it.
Yeah, it's good.
Well, Jessica and Scott are, similar. They also were together at school and got married, and 100 years later.
So Jessica, how long did you guys date? Like, when did you start dating at Milton Hershey?
We started dating. I was a sophomore
Okay.
in high school. So we dated for like 7 years before we got married.
Wow.
So
Wow.
all in all, this October will be 26 years we're married. So add 7 to that. Yes,
Congratulations.
I've been with Scott for more than half my life.
Yeah.
More than half.
Same.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Way over half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And happily.
And
Yes.
happily.
Happily.
Yes.
And so wait, take it back to the Milt. What student homes were you in?
Okay.
All right.
Wait. Let me stop.
Wait.
Started with you. When did you come to Milton Hershey School? And then tell me about the student homes.
Now,
Okay.
you go first.
All right. I came to Milton Hershey July 17th of 1980.
Okay.
And I was in student home Lenape. I was in intermediate division, student home Lenape. It was the summer between 5th and 6th grade.
Okay.
So I was going into 6th grade.
And did your brothers, did you all come at the same time?
So I have 2 brothers, Jim and Rich, and they came in the same day as me. We came in with the Mary Ellen, the Bowders sisters.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They came in the same day as us. They were next door to me in Nanacoke in intermediate division. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
That's crazy.
Right?
Rich was in Nanacoke?
Yeah, Rich started
He
out in
was.
Nanacoke. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, because he's
If
from
you
our
hear the
class, so
story,
obviously we know.
It's even better. Yeah.
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 And Chuck,
So-
how about you?
All right, so this is I came in 1978, October of 1978. Actually, I do not remember the exact day. It was a blur, I'll tell you that. But it would have been towards the end of October. It was right around Halloween time, because one of the 2 things I packed was a Halloween costume.
Aww.
Like, I'm
And I
looking
was thinking
prepared.
I was going to score so much candy, so I wore my favorite outfit. And I brought my Halloween costume. We never did get to go trick-or-treating. And about a week later, in a junior division, they do this thing, instead of shining the floors with a buffer,
Right.
they cut pant legs off, put them on your feet, and you run in place. And my favorite pair of pants were in the buffer, in the shiner rack. I'm like, what the heck is this?
His favorite article of clothing from home.
That was your personal item?
That was my personal item, and they're shiners now. And so my first week or 2 was, I'm just going to say, traumatic.
You probably got all of 2 minutes to sulk about it, and then you had to get back in and get focused.
I had to get back in the game. And then, so this is where it does get interesting. So I was in student home Longfellow in the junior division.
Okay.
And then I went to Birchland. And I was in Birchland for about 2 years. And I'm going to go right over the top on some of this. We got into a little bit of trouble, and I got transferred, and that's a fun, long story, but one of my buddies fell through the roof.
of the
I'm not
attic.
sure how that happens, but it happened.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to
Right.
interject.
'Cause I know
'cause that's what I
Nanaco,
do.
someone fell through the roof too.
Kareem,
It happens.
yeah.
It happens.
Kareem Preschetti.
Yeah. So Chuck, I'm going to name a name that a lot of 87ers will remember, and I wish Agoe were here because Mike
Oh,
Bolt
yes.
was the guy who fell through the roof.
Oh, is
We
that
lost
it?
Mike. Yeah,
Yes. So
they were
Mike
best
Like two
friends.
people falling through the roof.
Yeah. Mike Bolt was my first best friend in Milton
Oh,
Hershey.
that's
And,
awesome.
and there was this urban legend that some other 8th graders had hid some stuff up in the attic, and we were bored. You know how that is. So we broke into the student home, got up in the attic, and Mike was big. Mike was a big guy.
Yeah.
He was at least a foot taller. But big people sometimes aren't so coordinated. Sure, he fell right through the roof. So we concocted this story that he and I got into a fight, and I threw a shoe at him, and I missed and hit the roof and put this gigantic hole in it. They didn't believe it. They didn't believe
With
it.
your shoe?
With the shoe. Yeah, it was as big as the Grand Canyon, and Mike's shoe. Yeah, it didn't happen.
That's when they were like, you know, your favorite pants that you were buffing the floor with? Go
Right,
get
right.
those because you're going to get familiar with them.
So this is how me and Cyndi met. So around the first week of school in 7th grade, I came home and all my stuff was packed up, and I got transferred to Nanacoke. And that was where I met Jim and Rich. And I'm going to say I was Rich's, her younger brother's roommate
Really?
for a couple years.
Wow.
8th grade.
And so we've known each other for an awful long time. And of course we started dating in our 11th grade.
In high school.
Yeah.
It's crazy how that came full circle. Like,
Yeah.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
Actually,
each other.
what's really funny is Chuck and I liked each other. We passed notes in 9th grade and a little bit in 10th grade. And both of us told my brother Jim, who actually didn't graduate. He ended up getting out. But we both told him that we liked each other. And Jim never told either one of us.
Jim's fired.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's fired. Yeah.
He never told us that we liked each other. So from 9th grade, we really did like each other from 9th grade. But of course, you know, I had to date other people. And
You got to go through the
Ninth grade.
process to figure.
The ratio was much better for girls.
Right.
Yeah, the ratios were not good for guys back in that day. So 9th and 10th grade were a struggle.
So
I
true.
think back on it, Nanacoke and Lenape were right next to each other.
Yes,
Oh yeah,
side by side.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
I was in Iroquois, so I remember that
Right,
they,
right.
they were right there.
Iroquois was on the other side of Nanacoke, right?
That's right.
Around the circle.
Oh, no, on the other side of Lenape. We
Oh,
were
on the other side of Lenape.
Conestoga and Lenape. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
daydreaming to the girls on both sides. I was,
Yeah,
Yes.
I was the 8th grader in Lenape, right next door to you.
trust me, Chuck, no offense. I told Cyndi I had a crush on her since I was a kid. When
You
she
guys
was
are
doing the cheerleading stuff and all that. Her and Ursula
Ventrum.
Copenheffer,
Oh,
Culpepper.
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 Yep.
Yes.
Ah!
Yeah.
Absolutely in love. So
Sweet.
real quick, can you tell us about Mike Bolt? You know, his name has come up a couple times, and I know a lot of people didn't know who he was. Could you tell us a little bit
Well,
about
I
him?
can fill in the intermediate division years.
Okay.
I lived with him for fifth and sixth grade, and he and I would walk to the park every week in the summer. And his family was in Philadelphia, and they didn't come up very much. And so he and I, like I said, first best friend I had. And aside from being probably the tallest kid in our class, it'd probably be between him and Mike,
Sean Shockley.
or maybe Sean Shockley, but,
Yeah,
but
Sean
Mike
was
was a big kid way back then. And yet he was the gentlest, kindest, a wonderful dude.
That's
And
what I always hear about him. He was a gentle giant.
oh,
He really
he
was.
was the
Mhm.
gentle giant. And then in the senior division, he was in my paired student home. I was in Green Acres, which is no longer there. They tore that down. But Evergreen we shared a barn, and Mike was in
Right.
Evergreen, and we remained friends. We weren't as close. We didn't walk to the park because I met someone, and they tend to monopolize some time. So,
yeah.
but then I do remember it was just tragic. The weekend Mike passed away. I'll tell you what, if you want to fill that in, it was just tragic.
So Mike and I were really good friends in high school. I was in home economics related occupations in senior division, as far as instead of like print shop or whatever, that was our shop. It was Hero. And I was in elementary education, and he was dating a girl who was in sewing. Her name was Georgia Gaucher. She was also in our class. And Friday, we used to have these parties in Hero all the time. And this one Friday we had a party, and I was really short and Mike was really tall. So we were doing the dishes together, and he would put away all the high stuff and I would put away all the low stuff.
Right.
And he would say, here you go, short stuff. And I'd say, here you go, too tall, you know. We had this running, you know, we hung out a lot. We were really, really good friends. And that was Friday of Memorial Day weekend, our junior year.
Okay.
And that Sunday, he went to the park. Sorry, it was Monday. He went to the park, Memorial Day Monday, went to the park and wasn't feeling well. And a couple people saw him that day at the park. He was sitting on the bench. He was a little pale. He wasn't feeling, you know, himself at all. But he went back to the student home, and his house parents had him lay down. And when he went back to lay down, they had somebody check on him. 911 was called, and he passed away from Marfan syndrome on the way to the Hershey Medical Center via ambulance. But yeah, tragic, heartbreaking. I mean, rocked our class.
I remember the ambulance. I remember I didn't go to the funeral. There was a few people that went to the funeral.
So we took buses
from
to
the mill.
Philly. Yeah.
I didn't go, but just very tragic. Like I said, probably one of the nicest. If I were to, I mean, everybody thinks they have the best class, and of course, everyone in the class thinks they're the nicest. But honestly, Sterling Ashby and Mike Bolt were probably the two of the nicest people I've ever met in life.
And honestly, two of our best friends.
Yeah.
Rest in peace to both of them. You know,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I said, I didn't know Mike as well, but Sterl was like the big brother.
Oh yeah.
Very soft spoken, but just was.
It's crazy because every time we talk about Sterling, it is such a void in both of our lives. He was such a great friend of ours. We both got to see him, you know, when he was sick. We both made a point to go see him, you know, before he passed away. I mean, that was a.
Yeah, I had seen him right before he passed.
Yeah.
I was traveling to DC and went over to visit, and then I was also traveling in DC right about the time that his funeral was, so I was able to go there as well. And one of the things they talked about was he was the reigning chess champion for intermediate division.
And I went up.
Yeah,
but it doesn't surprise me.
Well, I went up to his mom and I said, you know, funny thing, I'm the dude that he beat. So I'm the second runner up. Yeah. And but
the things you don't ever forget about Milton Hershey: box hockey, you know, championships, chess and checkers championships. You know, like
to win that was like a relaxed weekend for us. I mean,
there's a lot of people
sleep in if you want. So.
Jessica, did you guys play jacks?
Yes,
we used to sit in the carport and just play jacks.
In the carport,
that was
jacks.
The girl thing, you know.
And Chinese jacks, we would play.
Yes.
Yeah. That was our big entertainment.
Yeah. Oh, we used to sit in the carport and play jacks, you know. Really.
Gotta keep busy.
Scraping your hands on the carport, picking up the jacks. Yeah.
And jacks were sharp anyway. Like those were, I don't even know why they give those to kids, really.
Step on it with
just
your
go play lawn darts or something, right?
They're worse than Legos to step on.
They are. Oh, they're bad. But yeah, so the ways that we passed our time in intermediate division with, you know, chess and checkers and box hockey and
I'm sure you've heard some of the conversations. Our jealousy comes out a little bit when we talk about what they got up there now compared to what we had. We try not to be bitter, but it comes out. You know, it's like,
the water park.
I know.
I want to go back. I'm like,
everybody says it. Like, I'd move back up there in a minute.
Well, yeah, think about transitional living that they didn't have when we were there. That probably would have gotten us in trouble.
Absolutely. Would have got a lot of people in trouble.
Yeah.
I will say that transitional living was one of the best things they could have done.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Getting out of Milton Hershey was a culture shock. You know, the real world did not welcome us and didn't care much, you know, compared to being Milton Hershey where, you know, everything was taken care of.
Yeah.
And you didn't worry about anything, but then going out into the world and like somebody was saying, like, I didn't know tampons even costed money. You know what I mean?
You mean I gotta buy that?
Right.
What do you mean I gotta buy that? Yeah.
It was a big closet. It was just filled with any kind of
the door,
necessity. Toothpaste, tampons, pads, like all that was filled in there.
No,
like,
I thought milk came out of a big silver
box.
box in the kitchen, you know.
Yeah, where are the free cookies?
Yeah.
You know, and Goey usually asks that question. So I can maybe wait till he comes, but that was one of our bigger challenges after graduating is we really didn't have a plan afterwards. And that was when we would go back and we would visit old house parents or Pete or somebody. We'd say, you know, man, it sure would be nice if they would, a couple things, teach us how to do a budget, teach us how to make a menu, teach us how to go shopping, teach us how to cook, because guy student homes didn't cook. We just, whatever came in the round thing on the meal bus, that was what we ate. We didn't even have to doctor it up. And so now they're doing it, and I love it. I think that's one of the most positive things that's changed.
That is great.
That and welcoming everybody back. You know, we were talking about how that, you know, it just makes a world of difference. I mean, that's home for a lot of us.
Yeah, that is, it's very welcoming.
And it is our home. I mean, we both, between us, you know, we spent a lot of years there. I mean, you know,
we did, what is it,
so
17
we had
years.
2 totally different experiences at Milton Hershey. Chuck really didn't like Milton Hershey, and I loved Milton Hershey.
Ooh, talk about that.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start? You want the good side or the bad side?
Both.
I want it all.
We want it all.
Goey.
You know, let me start off. Hey, Goey, how's it going?
What's up?
Good to see you.
Good to see you guys.
So I mean, just being real here, I came in 4th grade, and it was because up through about 2nd grade, I had a good life. I lived right up the street. Mom and dad, a nice, literally a white picket fence house. And then my mom got sick, and the bottom fell out so quickly. I mean, it was just a whirlwind. My sister was adopted by a church family, a missionary family, and she went and traveled the world. And the next thing you know, I'm taking tests down in Founders Hall, and I'm going to Milton Hershey School, and I wasn't real happy about it. Sure. And for I'm not going to say a lot of years. I'm going to say every year, all of them, right up until I walked across the stage. I made the best of it, and I did have fun. I had lots of good friends. I had good coaches. I enjoyed certain things, but I was not appreciative of really the whole experience. I just couldn't wait to get out. And let me tell you, the best thing one of the best takeaways I think from my experience was I wished away 9 years of just wishing. I can't wait for Christmas. I can't wait for summer vacation. I can't wait till next year. I can't wait to graduate. And what I found was shortly thereafter graduating, I realized, holy cow, that was an amazing once in a lifetime experience. And I wished it away. And I am never going to wish away another day in my life.
Right.
And then, and then of course, Cyndi wouldn't let me. She's too happy and too cheerful. And in her experience is, you know, we compared, and she's like, oh my God, I loved it there.
Milton Hershey saved my life. And I think even as a little girl, I came in when I was 10, and I recognized it. I didn't have to go to Salvation Army for my clothing. I didn't have to live in a car. I didn't have to not know where I was living. You know, really saved my life. I had a grandma that lived in Palmyra, which she was, you know, our situation was a little different in that my parents they divorced. I never remember them together. They divorced when we were babies. And my dad was an alcoholic, and he had custody of us, and there were 3 of us, and he didn't know how to take care of 3 kids. He could barely take care of himself. And he was also very young. My dad was 20 when Rich was born. So he's the 3rd. I mean, you know, so, I mean, they were very, you know, my mom left and actually gave custody of my dad. And then she kidnapped us and took us across country. And so we missed all of 4th grade. We lived on the street. We didn't know where our food was coming from. Life was, so when I got a wardrobe, I was like, this is for me. I mean, like, I get to keep this. Right. Y'all, it was the biggest thing for me. It was huge. I didn't have to worry about, I mean, to me, it was nice stuff because I didn't, you know, I didn't know where I was getting clothes from. Food, I didn't know where food was coming in on a truck. Like, what? Delivered. You mean I get chocolate chip cookies every night? Are you kidding me? It's great. Like, I always wanted to be a cheerleader. I tried out for Pee-wee midget cheerleading when I was in like 1st grade with my, you know, one of my parents, and we couldn't afford it, so I had to quit. And Milton Hershey allowed me that experience. I mean, that was the best experience for me. I remember the very first day, my first day at Milton Hershey. I came in the summer, so it was dead. Like there was one other girl in my student home, and her name was Pat Canty, and she was in class of '85, I believe. And did you remember Pat Canty? Anybody?
Yes,
yeah, she could sing. She could sing.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
She so she was the only girl in the student home. I came out of my bedroom. They showed me where my, here's your stuff, unpack your clothes. Your house mother showed me what to do. Time for rec. Now I got to go to rec. What is rec? Are you kidding me? I got an indoor swimming pool. I came out of the hallway and I went the wrong way. Like it was such a big house. I didn't know where to go. I was lost, but it was great. I loved it. I loved my whole experience. It wasn't perfect. Like there were things I didn't like, but I loved Milton Hershey. I knew exactly what Milton Hershey was for me.
Yeah.
So.
That's big though, to actually know what the Milt is while you're at the Milt.
Yeah.
I shared the sentiment like Chuck. I'm counting the days. As soon as I hit senior division, I started counting the days because it was like 1,000 days, I think it was, like once you hit senior division, 1,000 and something days. So I just started, mentally crossing them off every day, waiting for the next vacation. But the fact that you remember or you recognize what the Milt was for you at such a young age and while you're there, I give you kudos for that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I actually didn't want to graduate. I didn't want to leave. I didn't know what else I was going to do. I mean, I went home to my grandma's house. And we talk about this a lot because Chuck graduated with kind of a plan to go to college, but both of us were very rudderless. We didn't know where we were going and what we were doing. I didn't know how to balance a checkbook. I didn't know what I was doing. And my grandmother, Chuck gets upset because she pushed me. But it was a good thing. Like the day I graduated, she was like, "You're getting a job today. Go get a job."
Oh, wow.
So I did the only thing I knew what to do, and I went and applied for a job at a daycare center in town. And I worked there until we got married. I worked there for a year. We got married a year after graduation. So, both of us.
And I like them. Some of this is fictional, but this is the way I remember it. So after graduating basic training, I came back like officer and a gentleman, picked her up at the daycare and carried her out to the car. That's the way I remember it. And
That's right.
Flowers.
No proof otherwise. I'm just saying.
That is what Cyndi wanted. And that is not what happened.
That was probably the fifth car deep in the line of, parents picking up kids honking a horn.
Whatever he did, it worked.
I wanted him to come in his uniform. I wanted him to come in his uniform and sweep me off my feet. No.
What did you do? Hurry up, we're running late.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, yeah.
To that, your career, since we're there, you just got Alumnus of the Year.
Oh, man. Yes. Thank you. And so it's sunk in. I've had a little over a week, and hundreds of email and texts and posts and isn't that just amazing, man? I mean,
talk about coming full circle.
Yeah.
I've done a couple interviews and I really do come back to the thought of I might have wished away too much time at my Milton Hershey experience, but very shortly thereafter, it dawned on me, wow, that was a good once in a lifetime thing. I'm never going to miss another opportunity in my life again. And I can tell you, I have never missed an opportunity ever again. And even, okay, so you joined the military, and it was because I was going to hack, and like everyone in class of 1987, we were all smart kids. I put my little bit,
right.
my teeny bit of trust fund.
The smartest.
Right. I put that on the stock market, and a couple months later, the stock market crashes. And so now I'm literally broke again. And so I'm like, well, I'll get the GI Bill. I'll enlist for 4 years. We'll see how this goes. And I'll get out and I'll go back to college. Well, the kicker was you get into the military and you have Cyndi's attitude instead of Chuck's attitude. And that made all the difference, was just attitude. When I got to basic training, this was like Milton Hershey redo.
He knows.
And the truth is, man, the things that made you would have gotten you through and made you successful at Milton Hershey have totally made me successful in a military career, and I crushed it. It was actually cakewalk. It was easy. Not saying every day was easy, but the foundations were there. And even on the bad days, I mean, you know, the Army has a term. I deployed a few times with the Army, and they have a term. It's called embrace the suck. And
I got to stop you. Hold on. That's one of the things that I wrote down when I was thinking about this project a gazillion years ago. That reminded me so much of Milton Hershey School, the embrace the suck. That specific.
Embrace the suck. And for those that don't know what that means is it rather than complain about, oh my God, it's raining out and I got to sit in this hole, or I got to march, or I got to carry this, or I got to shovel a lot. I got to do whatever. Just embrace it, man. This is what God gave you for the day. You're never going to get this day again. Just make the best of it. And what you'll see is if you're in a unit with 5, 10, 100 different people, 99% of them they're going to complain the entire time. And then you get that one guy that's over there smiling and whistling as he's shoveling the lot, or digging a foxhole, or digging. Let me tell you, the worst job, a GOE can talk to this, I'm sure. When I was an enlisted guy, I deployed a lot. And out in the field, the hardest work I would do, I'd work a 12-hour shift in a foxhole. And then because I was an E4 or below, I used to have to do something called additional duties. And for 4 straight hours after working a 12-hour shift, I would fill sandbags, and sandbag filling is back-breaking, horrible work in the South. My unit was in South Carolina. It's hot, it's humid, there's bugs, and you're bending over for 4 straight hours. And you know what? It's hard to smile, but man, I'll tell you what, if you do, you will stick out. The first sergeant will notice, and he'll be like, hey, Chuck, I got a job for you. You know, and everyone else is grumbling, and next thing you know, hey, you're making the run back to the unit to, you know, fill up a truck of gas or something, and you can get a quick shower, and you could, and then it's one thing after another, and it's just embrace the suck, make the best of it, and we've had some terrible times. We've been separated a lot, like with military deployments or training, or you know, several.
There've been years.
I missed 3 years of kids' schools and that kind of stuff, but we embraced it. And the outcome is what you read in the package. We've had a wonderful life. We've had tremendous experiences. I mean, some of them crazy, some of them not so fun, but ultimately, who gets to do some of the things that I've gotten to do and Cindy's gotten to, you know, be with, and it's because we made the best of it.
Well, I was just going to allude to the fact that, you know, you got that award, but you both got that award. It takes a team, you know, raising children and handling. It's a balance. Life is about balance, and I'm sure.
Well, let me say this: for someone to give 100% to the military, there's nothing left at the end of the day, and so someone else has to be covering and carrying the slack. And it's absolutely a teamwork. And it took our relatives a long time. For a lot of years, they would always congratulate, hey, Chuck, congratulations on your promotion. Hey, Chuck, congratulations on your degree. Well, Cindy's the reason for it. I mean, I could not have done a lot of the things I was able to do if I didn't have a trusted partner that always had the 6, you know, so yeah, this year is definitely a joint class of 1987 award, and we're stoked. We're so happy. We're so humbled, and but we're gonna enjoy it. We're gonna enjoy it.
Hey, so I have a question for you. So Cindy, like Chuck said, his attitude changed. Did you see his attitude change, and what did you think?
Good question.
Yeah. So Chuck's attitude changed when we graduated. When he joined the military, I saw all of a sudden Chuck's always been successful. I mean, he was successful in Milton Hershey, even though he didn't like it. One of the things when we started dating, his student home, Green Acres, they had the youngest house parents. They're now do you guys know the Nipperts, Dan and Kim?
We had them the first day at Iroquois. They were training under the Mays when they first came. So watching their whole career has been interesting now that they're the the OGs and the old heads.
Right.
Yes,
Right. It's
yes.
kind of cool to see because we remember them. Okay, they came into Chuck's student home with
As rookies
with 9 freshmen.
9 freshmen.
9 freshman boys. I don't know how Kim Nippert did it. I don't.
They are saints.
But
they are saints.
By the time we got to when we were dating, and they had student home parties constantly. I was always over there and got to know them pretty well.
I know what you're going to say. Yeah.
She told me, she pulled me aside and she said, you are good for Chuck.
Yeah.
Wow.
So even then, but I think just when you take a marriage, 2 people that start dating when they're barely 16, you can grow apart very easily, or you can choose to grow together. And I think we made, both of us come from divorced parents. We made a conscious, deliberate decision. Yes. Divorce was not ever an option, never an option for either one of us. Wow. And, we've just been really fortunate in we communicate really well. And that has helped us for 32 years.
So that brings me to my next question or point. You guys are grandparents now, is that correct?
Best thing ever.
Yes, we are.
What that's like, because we often talk about how Milton Hershey molded us as parents, and having kids, but being grandparents, that's a whole nother level there.
Okay, so I think twofold on the parenting thing. I think Milton Hershey kind of ruined our kids because we're not the typical Milt parents that our kids had to do chores. We were actually kind of the opposite. I was a little more strict.
We went easy.
One of us was a little easier than the other. I was much more disciplinary.
True.
Very true.
True.
But our kids were much more afraid of Chuck.
And
I would try to scold our children or reprimand them for something, and they would laugh. I mean, honestly, they would laugh. Our kids didn't do chores. I mean, I regret it today because, I probably could have. One of the things I really wanted to implement in our kids' lives was yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. I feel like it's a point of respect, and I'm teaching our son to stand when a lady enters a room. Mm-hmm. Those things, like Chuck was like, no, I had to do those when I was a kid. We're not doing that. And so
it wasn't exactly for that, but it is absolutely true. And the logic behind it was being in the military. There's I can say yes, sir, and it can mean 10 different things, right? And what I saw,
maybe 30 different things.
30 different things, right?
Yeah, correct.
And what I saw was a lot of kids that their parents would reprimand or say, "Hey, go do it," and they're, "Yes, sir," or and it was, they were very much saying, "Go screw off, Dad. Go screw off, Mom." And I wanted to teach our children not rote respect, but genuine respect. Hindsight, I'll tell you the truth, I wish we could do it again because I think there's a mix of both, and that is one area in parenting where we didn't agree. And going backward, I wish that we could do it differently. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell
what'd you do different?
That one right there. I
would make our kids do more chores. I think we just didn't make our kids, I mean, they made their beds, they did like the typical stuff, but we didn't have like a chore chart, like you would think.
Well, Jess, here's my answer to that. Hers is very specific. Mine's generic. If I could go back and I look at the things that I would personally change, like the chores, the yes ma'am, no ma'am, stand up, that kind of stuff, I thought that would come natural because me as an example, it didn't. Okay. And so what I would say is when your spouse, who you trust more than anyone on this planet, says, "Hey, sweetie, let's do this." I probably should have considered it more. I hands down. I'm not saying I should have said yes, ma'am.
Not all the time.
I should have. And to tell you the truth, if those are perfect examples. Chores and just the rote respect, the yes ma'am, no ma'am. A lady walks into the room, you better stand up. Those kinds of hold the door for people. Those kinds of things. Right. I think
the owner's manual when you're a parent,
Yeah.
Now listen, let me continue that with grandchildren. Okay.
Oh, you get to do it again.
It is the most fun.
Yes.
Ever. I quit working to stay home with Declan, and I absolutely love every moment. But he likes Chuck better.
Come on, of course.
he loves his pop. It's like, what? Wait a minute. What? I mean,
I'm a fluffy grandfather. I mean, what's not to like, right?
He does. So, but at the same time now I feel like we do have a responsibility to Declan and to any, future babies that our kids have, to do things that we didn't do with our own kids. And I think teaching them, our kids do respect people. That's not to say they don't.
Mentor our kids so that they can become the better parents that, if we could do a redo, they get a second shot at it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Take awesome pictures, just so you know. Your pictures of Declan are awesome.
I haven't done a daily dose of Declan in a while, but it's one of my favorite things to do, and he's just fun to try and catch because now he knows you're doing it. And he's like, no. But he's a lot of fun. It is seriously the best thing ever. We've been looking forward to it for years. We knew, so we lived in Utah, and we knew when our daughter found out she was expecting that we were going to get the wheels moving. We weren't going to live 2 time zones away from our grandchild. Mm-hmm. And so we decided to move where they are, which ended up being Savannah, Georgia. And so we're just really fortunate that.
And the company that I work for and the Air Force, who ultimately is who I work for, were gracious to allow the move. It was a funded move from us. We paid for it, but they established an office here that I can still functionally, when I travel 2 weeks a month, that kind of stuff, and telephone the rest of the time. We were able to keep the same job and everything, and it made it almost. I mean, we left. We took a week of vacation. Stopped working on one Friday, started working, 2 Mondays later, like clockwork. And it was just perfect.
It was smooth.
So, the other thing about grandparenting, which is awesome, is you don't have the pressures of worrying about a career. You don't have the pressures about trying to go to night school. You don't even have the same financial pressures. You're more grown up. Your marriage is stronger. The downside is you're older, and a little grandchild wears you out, man. I'll tell you, he took him home today, and we were like, I'm going to take a nap before this little phone call.
One thing parenting is definitely a young person's.
Man, it tires us out, but we love it.
Yeah,
we love it.
Yeah. It's fun. It is a lot of fun, and he's a lot of fun. Just getting to be a part of his life every single day, But it's tiring. It is. Mothering is a young girl's thing.
Yeah,
I couldn't do it. I mean, it would be hard.
But we don't do it. That's why we don't do it.
That's why we don't.
That's why. Yeah.
Exactly.
We're lucky.
Exactly.
I started a little late, and I'm tired often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of quick questions. They're like speed round questions, and you can both answer them. What is your favorite Hershey candy bar?
Score bar.
Mr. Good Bar or Reese's.
Oh, that's a first. Okay, when you were there, did you prefer house or barn?
Sure.
Barn.
House.
So okay. So I don't know if I should say this because I don't know who's going to hear it, but my house mother didn't act like she liked me very much. So I chose barn because I got along really well with my dairyman and my house father. So I loved going to barn, and I was gone a lot. I was in cheerleading, I was in choir, I was in track, I was very active. And as a matter of fact, graduation week, my house mother, in a very not nice tone, said, "You sure got a free ride this year, didn't you?" Hey, listen, you got to make the best of what you got.
That's right.
You got to make the rules work for you.
That's right.
That's it.
You figured out how to play the game, and the game was to not be there doing the chores.
Right. I don't think I did an afternoon barn all school year.
I ran a couple seasons across country just to get out of barn. And I'm terrible at running. I hate running, but I liked it better than barn.
So when I was a freshman, when we were both freshmen, and Agoe was a freshman, we had Wyandotte was jazz band or was Wyandotte, it was all boys. And that was the first year that Wyandotte became girls, was our freshman year. And we also had 9 girls. I think it was jazz band. We had Mr. and Mrs. Baird. They were an elderly couple, sweet as can be. And we didn't have barn. And then Mrs. Baird, I guess, got sick and they retired. And we got the Clintons. And Mrs. Clinton did not like me. It didn't matter what I did. I hate to say this, I was dating a black guy, and she did not like that. I mean, even if I was friends with a black guy, she didn't like that. And so she would watch. Anyway, I went into Mrs. Royer and begged. I said, I'm going to either run away or something. And I never got in trouble. I never had issues. I was never on 30 and 30. I was never in trouble. But she hated me, and I didn't like when people hated me for just,
because.
I mean, yeah. So that day I was told you will go home with Brookside at the end of the day. And that was it. You will go home with Brookside. So I ended up graduating from Brookside. And I loved Brookside. I loved the girls that I was with. I mean, we had a great student home. The Howells, I love them today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm sure you guys can relate a little bit. We didn't always see eye to eye. I was not a problem student at all. But I got a free ride, and my house mother didn't think that was right. So
jealousy going on there, I think.
And Jessica, for the record, that's the speed round answering there. Just one of us is the extrovert, okay?
That's all right. It was a good story.
So, Goey, just to get you up to speed, we kind of went over your stuff a little bit earlier.
Oh, you did? So I was curious. That's why I was kind of laying low a little bit.
It's tough. Chuck started to get in on it, but you know,
that's important. We can revisit because I love your question, Goey.
Absolutely.
So I got a few. So I mean, I like to end on one particular question, but so Chuck and Cyndi, we kind of know each other very well.
Yeah.
But everybody doesn't know that. So I'm like, Cyndi, so who was your crew when you came to school? Who was your hangout partners? And we can start maybe from intermediate, then go to senior division, if that changed at all. Because when you change senior, when you change homes, I think your crew trying to change, but it never changes at school. So you kind of.
I agree with you. My school crew was pretty much the same, but it was based around my student home. So when I first got there, a lot of my friends were just in my student home. And Sean Shockley was a good friend of mine. Like we were in classes together for a long time. So Shockley was a good friend. And then in senior division, I had still the same friends that I have today. Denise McDonald, we didn't always see eye to eye. We were in the same student home, but she was a great friend. Stephanie Kahn and Alyssa Hannity, and those are my girls, man. It's crazy to think about. And then I had 2 best friends in high school. Bridget Savage was a great friend of mine. To this day, she's my sister. And Denise is still a great friend. Sue Porteous and Felicia, we were in Hero together, so we just were always together. And Tracy Dean graduated a year ahead of me, and that was my crew. Of course, but I was a cheerleader, so I was literally friends with every group. Like I had friends who were in the pond group, pond crew.
Pond people.
Your brother was
So my brother Jim was a pond person.
Yeah, the hair.
That
Rich
was my guy though. I liked him a lot.
Yeah. Rich was in the rap and the
hip hop kid with us.
Hip hop.
Yeah. Another one of my guys though.
Yeah. And then I had my own group. Of course, Chuck was my crew. So, I mean, I would dump every friend to be with Chuck if I could. The funniest thing about Chuck is he would choose sometimes at rec to not go to rec to be with me and sleep. He would choose sleep over me. So now listen, I was a typical girl, and I was like, really? So there was a little competition, a little bit in our senior year, a little bit of competition for my attention. And it worked out.
Yeah.
He still got the nap and he still got me later, but it was,
I was a stupid kid in school. Let's preface that.
He
All
was
right,
just
Chuck,
wishing away
Chuck,
the
it's your
days.
turn.
All right, so I came in junior division just for a couple months, and I didn't have a crew then. I
Okay.
think first week or two, Sean Hummel punched me in the face walking home from school, and I'm like, "What? Where did that come from?" So obviously, he and I are now best friends. I guess that's the way that works. But intermediate division, I was at 2 years at Birchland, and Mike Bolt was by far my best friend. And but then there was like Adam Wise and that crowd, John Jester. He had an older brother, Bill Jester, and then I went to Nanaco, got transferred, and my two buds there were Cindy's two brothers. Jim was in our grade, and then he had a younger brother, and Ralph. Yeah, that's right. Ralph was the Davis brothers were there. I mean, we had a cool student home. It was good times. When I went to the senior division, for the first 2 years, it was there for our freshman year. There was 9 freshmen in Green Acres. Me, Eric, Brooke Hardy. Brooke Hardy passed away last year, I think, 2 years ago. Brett Laspopoulos.
Wow.
Incredible.
We're going back.
But there were 9 of us. Terry Davis and
Clay Harris.
Terry Davis,
Clay,
that was my guy.
We had a good crew, but my besties were there was 3 of us: me, Tom Clancy, Mark Schellenberger, and Clark Fisher.
Nice.
And we hung out, and then and things were good for 2 years, and then there was a little tremor in the force. I'm going to say around January of '85, I started dating a cheerleader, and then things changed.
Wow.
But I wouldn't change a thing, other than I probably should have taken less naps during rec.
Now,
wow.
That's a first.
Yeah.
I hope you can edit this thing, right?
No, we're not doing that. So look, hey, Cyndi. Cyndi, I was really close with almost every one of your female friends. I was very close with them.
Yeah.
Bridget,
That's why we're good friends.
Yeah.
Sue. I mean, Denise. Like that was really.
We go back 40 years, man.
Yeah, plus or minus 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I wasn't that close with Tracy Dean, but she wasn't in our class. But
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, literally, even Stephanie Kahn, like I was just like those were like my homegirls.
Yeah.
And Sean Shockley, I used to love doing I used to announce the basketball games.
Yeah.
So I used to get to announce Sean, the house, Shockley.
On the house, Shockley. I love it. Yeah.
He could dunk.
And I mean, we had singing in common. I mean, I can't sing, in a bucket today, but we had singing in common, and so
we did. Like we were around a lot, and even track, and so. And Chuck, you said a key name besides the Krause, but you said Michael Bolt.
Yeah.
And Michael Bolt, he and I were like we were in the same shop together.
Yeah.
And that was probably the most devastated I've been until Mike Troisi.
And see, we graduated before Mike Troisi passed away.
Yeah.
So we were a little buffered from that. Mike.
Yeah, but Michael was my guy, so I was just
up to that. I would tell you when Mike passed, I remember Cyndi already explained that whole weekend. That was the most. That was one of the worst days of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I remember it today.
I think I think Milton Hershey. We just don't experience that. That was something that unfortunately we had the 2 mics, one right after the other. And Mike Bolt was so sudden, and it just took all of us by surprise.
It was terrible because I remember we all went to the funeral in Philly.
Yeah, see, I was with you.
And so it was, it was just let's move on because I might get a little. So
listen, Chuck didn't go because he knew it would be too hard for him.
That was tough.
We were dating, and he didn't go. He said, it's one of those things that we have talked about since. Do you regret not going? Probably now as an adult, but as a kid, that was his best friend, and he couldn't have.
It's a lot
He
to
was-
process.
It is a lot
So
to
he,
process.
but Mike was probably the guy, I think.
Oh,
Absolutely.
He
no
was just-
doubt.
he was just like, he was a huge guy, but he was just so like, I don't think, I never heard him say a bad thing.
No.
I mean, and I'm not like, he just was he wasn't me, that's for sure. He was a great
No.
guy.
You know, I think the thing is, he wasn't any of us. He was just
Yeah, he was
so.
an awesome guy.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah, he really
Mike
was.
was special, no
We-
doubt.
yeah, so let's talk about Terry Davis. You said Terry
Oh,
Davis.
yeah. Yeah,
Now,
Terry was a
Terry
best-
Davis was like, Terry Davis ran track.
Yeah.
And I don't want to talk about it, but I'm not really sure why. Because Terry Davis could race me every day. And hopefully he's listening to this.
Oh, he's going to listen to this because I got some funny
Terry Davis
stories.
raced me every day before, it was like right before we started or right after track practice. And I would say, like, we were like in the Milt, so we were like, I'm going to race for a case of beer. And we know we couldn't get, like, neither one of us getting it. I don't think I even had a beer at that point. But Terry Davis, you owe me about, you probably owe me 600 beers. I just want to say that. I want everybody to know, if you see Terry Davis, I want my damn beer.
He owns it.
Right?
So
Just give him a keg.
Gary ran track the same reason I ran cross country. He just wanted to get out of the student hall.
Get out.
Neither of us were good.
So, but that was my guy, though. He was,
Yeah,
he
so-
was the treat.
Years later, I'm talking 10, 15 years later, I'm flying probably out of DC into Atlanta, and I'm military, so of course I'm in the back of the airplane, right? Or and this guy, he comes walking past, and I recognize him, and I go, all right, I'm going to say his name, and if he makes eye contact, it's you. I think, hey, Terry Davis. And sure enough, he had a look of shock, and we got up and hugged on the airplane. People were boarding and stuff. This is back, a couple years ago, but here he's some big shot lawyer now in Atlanta. Small world. It's a great
That was
world.
evident to me even back then. He was the only guy I knew that had Gucci loafers. Everybody was buying like nice sneakers, and he had a pair of Gucci loafers. And I was like, where do you even buy
And a
them?
Def
Even
Leppard
get that.
shirt.
Right.
Yeah,
Loafers and a Def Leppard shirt.
So,
I was jealous. I wanted the Def Leppard shirt, couldn't afford it.
right.
Bolts, boy.
So we got to shout out Clark Fisher, who was an X-Men too. So
Clark
shout
could,
out to
yes,
Clark Fisher, X-Men.
yes.
So now we go into, we know who your crew was. And Cyndi, you kind of touched on it while I was on the phone when I got onto the interview anyway. But like when you take the whole experience of Milton Hershey, and now it's like graduation night. Like, how did you feel when it was all over said and done with and you had to go? Like, me personally, I didn't have a plan. And I don't think anybody was really interested in whether I had a plan or not. It was like, thanks a lot, go, you're out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're out. I didn't have a plan. So crazy going back to, I can remember the last day at Milton Hershey. I can remember my last
It's
day
surreal.
like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
So my house parents threw, it was class day. That's Monday. We all get our class rings, and it was just a surreal day. My dad, so our house mother had like a party and invited the parents, but my dad didn't come. My family didn't come. So the afternoon of our graduation, I babysat my house parents in their apartment. I stayed away because it was too hard. I didn't have anybody at the graduation party for my own graduation. I didn't have a plan. I really just, that night, I was going home to my grandma's house, and she had a little party for both of us. And then Chuck went home to his dad's house in Harrisburg. My family lived in Palmyra, so it wasn't too far away. Okay. Chuck went to Harrisburg, and we
woke up the next day and
yeah, my grandma said, you're getting a job today, by the way. You will go get a job, and you will pay bills here. You're not living here for free, which was really, it used to anger Chuck. But
I thought it was
really
kind of harsh.
a good thing for me. I mean, I didn't have a lot of bills. I mean, I had to pay my long distance phone bill. Oh my gosh, remember those days? Y'all, that was long. Harrisburg was
10
long
cents
distance
a minute,
to Palmyra. I mean, seriously. So I had to pay my long distance phone bill, and I had to share the electric bill with her. But it taught me, that did teach me how to pay. I just gave her the money. I didn't really have to pay the bills, but it kind of grew me up even faster, I think. And then Chuck shortly after joined the Air Force, and I was like, now what am I going to do? I mean, seriously, we were so connected. I was like, what now? I don't have anything. So he left for basic training. I kind of moped for about a month and then started planning our wedding. So that's a whole nother story.
That's a whole nother podcast. There might be two versions of how all that happened.
Maybe we should interview them separately for that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So Chuck, so what forced you, like, well, I don't want to say forced, but what pushed you into the direction of the military? Because I know I had my own particular reasons.
Oh, yeah.
What pushed you in that direction?
I'll tell you, I'll be very honest. And I know a lot of people are gonna hear this, but I think honesty is good for young kids to think about this. I did not enlist for any good intention. It wasn't patriotism. It wasn't heroism. I graduated at 17. A couple days later, I turned 18 and I got the quote trust fund.
See, no, time out. I didn't get a trust fund. He got that because his dad paid child support.
And I'm saying quote trust fund. I was not loaded by any stretch. It was the child support that my dad would send to Milton Hershey. And of course, Milton Hershey didn't spend it, so they put it in the same account. So it was like $14,000.
A lot of
But
money.
that was back then when, in order to get the scholarship, you had to use your trust fund. And I said, no, I'm not doing it. I bought a car. My house parent, Dan Nippert, helped me buy my first car.
That's
And
awesome.
He's a stand-up dude.
That's my guy.
And I paid cash for it, $3,500. It left me with I had about 10 grand. I enrolled in college. And Agoe, this is why I enlisted. I heard the old commercials about join the military, the Montgomery GI Bill. You get $31,000 for college. I had $10,000 left to get me through 4 years of college. And the math didn't add up. I didn't know how I was going to do it.
Right.
I put all that money on the stock market in the summer of '87. Because that's what every kid does at 18, right? This is true. Swear to God.
Right.
A couple months later, me and Cyndi are dating. I'm burning all my spending money, going back and forth to Palmyra and dating her and working night jobs. And long story short, I would go to college during the day. I would work as a nighttime security cop at night. My stepmom woke me up the day of the stock market crash and said, "Hey, does Black Monday mean anything to you? What, a stock market crash?" And I'm like, oh, by the time I got downstairs, I was broke. I went to college that day. I disenrolled. I got all the money back for the books. I went down to, it was Dolphin or the deposit, Union Deposit Exit.
Yeah.
And went into the Coast Guard originally because you could do a 2-year enlistment. And when they showed me the job selection, which was about 3 jobs, and it all ended with firefighting and painting ships, I said, I'm going to try the Air Force. I said, hey, what can you do for me? And they gave me 3 books, and it was like 1,000 jobs. I enlisted. I raised my hand and sworn in. I did the paperwork right there, and I depped in a couple. So nothing patriotic. And Agoe, to give you that was why I enlisted. That was the first 4 years. The next 24 years was a little better. It was, my plan was to get out. But the frankness of it was when I got in, I loved it. It was something bigger than myself. It was so many opportunities. I had a first sergeant, Bruce Weaver, Master Sergeant Weaver, that just mentored me. Here, I'm a 1 or 2 striper. And he took an interest and he taught me how to grow up and be me and Cyndi were married at 18 and we were broke. We were making about $350 every 2 weeks as an E1.
You're lucky to have that.
And the truth is, I deployed with these people, man. I filled a lot of sandbags with these people. I believed in what we were doing. And the first 4 years went so quick. It was easy to raise my hand again because I knew at that point I was part of something great. And year after year, assignment after assignment, and finally, one of the hardest decisions I ever made was to retire. It was hard to leave. Go ahead, sweetie.
Well, he also went to college while he was working for the Air Force. So he did college and worked full time.
Yeah.
So at the time,
which is not an easy
They weren't
task
easy
at all.
times. They weren't easy, but I'll
Not at
tell
all.
you, you know what's cool? 2 Milts making it through life, especially young. Dude, we had a blast.
It's been fantastic having you on, and the honesty and, you know, the perspective of everything you bring. A lot of times I think people romanticize the Milt, how it was all perfect, and, you know, it wasn't. What molded us, and that's how we got to where we're at. Like you said, embrace the
Thank
suck.
goodness. Thank goodness.
Embrace the suck.
Embrace the suck.
Embrace the suck.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Chuck, our other sentence was, if it ain't raining, it ain't training. So
But were you Army or Air Force?
all day Army.
Oh, he's all day Army.
Oh, man.
So, well, the other saying we had was, "Hey, man, can you turn down that air conditioner?"
I know we had that.
So, hey, that's all right. I can handle any joke you got, man.
Listen, no, because listen, I know we got to go, but when you deploy, the first in the military, in the Army, when you deploy, the first group you find is the Air Force.
Yeah.
And you find somebody you can hang out with because they got all the coolest stuff and they're very willing to share. So they're big sharers.
Chuck's deployment to Afghanistan was on an Army billet, so he didn't get the cushy.
No, I literally wore an Army uniform.
Yeah.
The only thing they did different was change
the name tapes.
the name tapes.
Yeah.
I had a blue name tape instead of black,
Yeah.
but it was, this is one last sec. This is so cool. When I was in OTS, my roommate, that would have been 15, 18 years ago. First meeting I went to, I come in, I open the door. There's my OTS roommate, literally in the Army. He did the blue to green.
Right,
That was
right.
the first guy I bumped into over in Kabul, Afghanistan. What an awesome world, man. What an
Great
awesome
thing, right?
Yeah.
But anyway,
Right.
hey, I want to thank y'all again. I think I love these podcasts. Y'all do such a great job. Thanks for asking us, man.
This is fun.
We love the Milt and we love you guys. And thanks for letting us on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Give it to him. Give it to him, Warner.
So if you guys could just say, this is either Cyndi and Chuck or Chuck and Cyndi Seidel for the milttalkpodcast.com.
Sure.
You want to say Chuck and Cyndi?
Sure.
Okay.
Hey, this is Chuck and Cindy Seidel for the
Milt Talk Podcast.
Podcast.com.
All right.
Back it up.
Take two.
Yo, we
Thank you.
love you guys, man.
All right.
Yeah,
We really do.
it was great.
You've been one of the biggest supporters of this thing since we started. Like, you know, sometimes online people get all worked up, and you've been like my bodyguard on there, jumping on and straightening people out and all that stuff. But it's so good to have you guys on, man.
Yeah.
It really
Well,
is.
thanks for having us, you guys.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
We appreciate it.
We
Thank
love
you.
All right, we're gonna let you go. We'll see you
Bye. We'll
soon.
talk to you soon.
Bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.